Hello ladies and gents, in this video we will explore more commands from UI5 CLI. In the previous video we have already seen how to use UI5 serve command as well as UI5 init to initialize a UI5.yaml file. Now let's see a few others. First one is UI5 version or -v for short, which is very simple, just displays our version of UI5 CLI. Next one is UI5 -help or -h for short, which lists all available commands and options we can use with them, along with some examples. And lastly, one of the most important ones, the build command. So in order to build our application, we run UI5 build. Now we can see a new dist folder here, but first let's check the logs in our terminal. Now we can see that the build command has run several tasks here. Some of them are not very important at the moment. For example, this one, escape non-ASCII characters, which just speaks for itself. These two, replace copyright and replace version. These are also not very important at the moment. What these do basically is if you have some placeholders for copyright and version, it just replaces those. And minify is an important one, so let's see what it actually does. If we check our dist folder here, let's go into the controller, and remember we normally have only one controller file here, app.controller.js, but now we see three. So if we check the one with the same name, we see a minified version of our controller code. What this does is it removes all the unnecessary characters, spaces, comments, etc. And then it renames all our parameters and variables so that they are really short. You see like this. It's one parameter here is called just E, the other is T. So what this achieves is it creates a smaller file in terms of size, so it's faster to load when we run our application in production. This is what minify does. Generate flex changes bundle. It has something to do with Fiori elements. We're not interested at the moment. And another very important one is generate component preload. And what that does is, if we check our component.js file, we see that it's also minified, but we see another file named component-preload.js. And this file is a single file that basically contains all our resources. Now if we check here, we can see our i18.properties files contents, our manifest.json, even our XML view. So what this does is it takes all our resources and bundles into a single file named component-preload.js. So when we run our application in production, only this file is going to be served instead of several resources like controller, view, i18 and file, manifest file, etc. And you can imagine it would be such an improvement in terms of performance. Now let's check a few other files here. We see some file names with -dbg at the end, which stands for debug. These are basically the original versions of our files and will only be served if our application is running on debug mode, in production that is. It's just easier for us to debug. And one more thing we see is map files. For example, this one, preload.js.map. Or let's use the controller, it's a better example in this case. So it's just a one-liner because all the empty spaces and new lines are removed by this minify task. So whenever we have an error in the console, we will see that it's on line 1, which doesn't say a lot. But if we have this map file as well, it's going to be mapped to our original file, this one. So we can see exactly where the error is, which is super useful. Now let's see a few more options that we can pass into this build command. Let me close this. A very simple one is called test. So UI5 build -- test. Now the default value for that is dist, as you can see. Let's say build this time. And we can see now next to our dist folder, we have a build folder. I will remove this. Very simple one. And what we can do next is a clean dast option. Let's say I copied something over to my build folder. I will just create a new file, dummy.js. And if I run my build again with the same destination, we can still see our dummy file is here, even though it's not generated by the build command. So let's run it again, and this time we also pass -- clean -test. Now it cleans our destination folder before building the application, so our dummy file is now gone. And two more very useful parameters we can use. The first one is include task and the other one is exclude task. So we can choose which tasks to run for our build. For example, we can remove some of these, or we can include additional ones. Especially we have some additional ones if you're using Web IDE, so you can include those in your build command. Or if you don't want to run some of these ones that don't make any sense for us right now, what we can do is we can say UI5 build. Let me first remove the build folder. So UI5 build, first we are going to exclude all the tasks. So -- exclude -task equals an asterisk between single quotes. And then we will pass in -- include -task. So the important ones for us are minify equals minify space, and the next one is generate component preload. So I will just copy this and paste. Let's run. Now you see there are only two tasks that we passed in. And if we check the dist folder, we can see the preload file and also the minified versions of our files. So that's all for this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.